we swallow.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. Of course, Fan Expo is coming up just around the corner. Fan Expo Canada. You're going to be there. You are someone who I find has really embraced fandom, and fandom has kind of embraced you back. With this kind of connection, I've noticed you've used it to raise awareness to a lot of charities. Has that
Yes,
become something that has become really important to you?
it has. Yes, because oh my gosh, I mean, this character means so much to me for so many reasons. And I find that she herself like just emulates so many attributes that I want to have more of. So I feel like I need to represent her well. And then having a platform like Star Wars that is so known and beloved, I feel really, really fortunate that I can use that to raise awareness around some of these things. I mean, most closest to my heart is a group called Voices Against Cancer, which I've worked with for a few years. And they fund pediatric cancer research, and they have just a wonderful support community for families whose kids are going through cancer treatment. But there's been other things too. I mean, I find myself involved with I guess it's next Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a live stream of a Dungeons and Dragons game starring dogs.
Yeah. The
That's called the
puppy
Puppy
roll.
Roll.
Yeah.
And my dog, Norma Jean Meatballs, who has her own armorer costume, she will be represented. That's who I'll be playing. And we're going to be raising money for Petco Cares, which helps out shelter dogs. And then I'm also involved trying to sort of help out another a weekend of tabletop role-playing games that's called Andrea's Adventurers. And this is just because I met this wonderful, wonderful couple up in Canada, Andrea and Blair, who do this charity weekend every year. And Andrea herself is going through cancer treatment, and she's lost family members to cancer. And I think the most surprising thing to me when I started raising money for Voices Against Cancer was how many different people's stories I started to hear, because people approach you at a convention, and if they see that you're raising money for that, unfortunately, a lot of us have some experience with cancer. I lost my dad to cancer, and other people started sharing with me their own stories. And it's so helpful to me to feel like we're all connected to that way. And I think it helps other people too. So it's a huge blessing to have this platform. And it's, I say to people all the time, there's so many actors who do incredible work, but it's sort of the luck of the draw as to whether you're doing that work on a show that a lot of people see. So I'm very, very grateful that I get to do that, and that I can do some good with it.
Yeah, and speaking of which, obviously, as you said, you're at the show, you're getting to interact with the fans, which is obviously
Mm-hmm.
one of the big things about this. And you get to hear these stories, these like we've heard it from a number of people that over the years that they get these connections with the fans that come up. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering for yourself, like, what has that been like? Because like typically as an actor, you're behind the camera, you're on a set somewhere, you never
Yeah.
actually see the audience. It's not like like theater. And this is your chance to interact with the people who are watching everything that you do. And like what has that been like for you, especially with, obviously you had Supernatural prior to this, but now Star Wars is so much bigger than even Supernatural.
Yes.
Like what.
It's Well, like you said, it's so different doing film and TV than it is doing theater, and that's where I started, and that's where my heart is. I think as an actor, like just for the purest acting experience, I love doing theater because you do have the audience right there. You're getting immediate feedback, and you're breathing with them, and you're playing off of them. And so I have realized that the conventions sort of feel like they are closing that storytelling loop that automatically gets closed when you're there with the audience. And I love them for that, because the audience is a vital part of the storytelling. If we're making these things and nobody watches them, who cares? And the reactions that they provoke in the audience, and the connections that people have, and especially with these shows like Star Wars and Supernatural that are larger than life, and that have these wonderful character archetypes and their own mythology that all of us connect to in some way. With Star Wars, with the hero's journey, people do have such an emotional connection to it. And it's always so interesting for me to hear where something that I've done has popped up in someone's life and helped them through a particularly hard time or inspired them to do something. And I love hearing all of the theories about, like, you know, some of the symbolism and what these characters represent. So I have to say, you know, when I first started doing conventions, it was just for Supernatural, and it was a little weird at first because I was playing this character who never smiled and was constantly like sucking people's souls and smiting them. And so people were a little apprehensive when they approached me at my table. And the journey since then, I am very happy to say, is much different now. And I just feel I love getting to learn about the people who come to my table. And it just feels like this huge community that we all get to be a part of. And it's so, it affects me so much more on a personal level in a way that I never really expected it to.
Mm. You mentioned that you got your start in theater, and I know this past June, you actually got to go back where you had your start in theater for the
Yes.
50th anniversary celebration of the Virginia Theater Festival. And there you sang Being Alive from Company. And you said it was a specific one that you wanted to do based on where you are in life. What was it
Yeah.
like going back and performing there and performing that particular song?
Oh my gosh. It, you know, my life lately is a lot of travel. There's a lot of moving parts. And so I knew that I had this thing coming up, and I'd been working on my music. But I was not prepared for how emotional it would be, because it really was there. Because the Virginia Theater Festival is in Charlottesville at UVA, and UVA is where I went to undergrad. And so it was in college that I sort of made I didn't know growing up I was going to be a professional actor. I loved performing. I hadn't claimed it as my vocation. And it was while I was there that decision happened, and that I really like finally stepped into it and had the guts to say that I wanted to do it. And I was working with Bob Chapel on this this performance that we just did, and he directed me in, I don't know, like 6 or 7 shows while I was in undergrad. And he cast me in such a diverse range of roles. And that was sort of the thing that made me go, oh, I really do love this. And I need to learn more, because there's so many characters that I don't even know how to approach. And so that informed my decision to go get an MFA. But being back there with some of the people who I had done summer stock with, you know, a few years ago, was so special to see where they are in their lives now, and to hear what everyone's journey has been. Because I think, you know, we focus, all of us focus on sort of the headlines of people's careers, which is natural. But the people who are still doing it after 20 years, I will guarantee, have had to go through a lot of unpleasant times, and very challenging times, and times where you question, like, should I even be doing this? Is it worth all the work? You know, when you go 6 months, a year, auditioning, and not getting cast in anything. And so we got to trade all of those stories of, you know, where our tough periods have been and why we're still doing it. And it was just such a thrill. And I also got to, while I was there, I got to troop with the 501st and go to the UVA Children's Hospital. So it was this weird melding of like, okay, musical theater, I get that. That's where I started. And now, like, because of Star Wars, I get to do all these other things that like are sort of the side perks to this wonderful acting job. And so to have all of those combined in one place was really, really special. It was a good time.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
Fantastic.
You know, you made me think about, like, when you were talking about like all the things that like actors go through, right, through their careers. And, you know, and I'm just thinking about, like, what is the one role? Because you've got a ton of roles, and a ton that I know you from, that
Kim Fischer, Lisa Tepes, Amara, the Armorer.
Yeah, like I watched The Mentalist for the first time last year, so I got to see it
nice.
there. Yeah, so I was like, oh wow, you're literally in every show I watch. And but I'm just wondering, is there one role that always surprises you when a fan brings it up?
Oh, I love it when people, because one of the most fun things I've ever done was an episode of Flight of the Conchords. And I don't know if you know that show.
Mhm.
It was on, I guess, 2 seasons on HBO, but I did an episode in the first season before it had aired. And I knew Brett and Jermaine's, I'd seen like their musical act and I knew they were really funny. And I thought the script was funny, but I wasn't sure if it was because it was so weird. And it was such a fun show to do. And I keep saying I need to have some pictures on my table from that because that is a delight to me when people bring that up. That one, but then also I think, you know, there's I've got like the majority of my Supernatural photos and my Star Wars photos, and then, you know, the Mentalist, there's a few people, Castlevania, there's a good group of people, but then I'll have like a picture from SEAL Team that I don't even put out on the table because there's not room, but I have a few because I know if someone is a SEAL Team fan, they're really, really devoted to that show. And that one also, I think, is so satisfying to me because I feel like the quality of the storytelling of these soldiers was so beautiful and so on target, according to fans who have, you know, come to tell me about it, who have military experience of their own. So that usually when someone is a SEAL Team fan, they have some sort of connection to the military. And so that also feels very special. So yeah, I guess that's about as wide apart as you could be, Flight of the Conchords and SEAL Team. But those would probably be the two.
Yeah, that's an interesting 6 degrees of separation there, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Emily, I want to thank you for talking with us today. Really look forward to seeing you at Fan Expo Canada and getting all the fans getting to see you. And of course, to continue doing what you do, because this is the way.
This is the way. Thank
Have
you
a great
so
day.
much.
Bye.